Harp on Sports, the Bar, podcast, media, audio, and radio network. What do we have in store for you on this edition of the program? Trask Stack, as Kyle Trask stacks a couple of solid drives in his start over the weekend in the Bucs' second preseason game. It doesn't mean he's going to win the starting job, but it is significant, so we're going to dive into that. Urban Meyer's mentality, the series, and look, Netflix is really, really good at this. Storytelling at its finest. It's not a dramatization. You know, I love Winning Time on HBO, but that's a dramatization. That's a show. The Untold series, I think, you know, it gets back to that like 60 minutes route of storytelling behind the scenes. Pay attention to that man behind the curtain. It's great. Winning Time was this way. The thing that sparked all this was ESPN's 30 for 30. And looking at this, it's starting to leak out. At least we're starting to get some of the information. It's going to be a fascinating series when you look at the Florida Gators. But the Urban Meyer storyline, that he was struggling to sleep, so he was mixing alcohol and Ambien. He was booed after losing to South Carolina his first year. Oh boy. The Urban Meyer story is a cautionary tale that you have to do you at the end of the day. You have to do you as a coach. So we're going to look at that. And also, Wander Franco. Wander's hit that wall. We're at a wall now. There's nowhere to go. It's been 8 days. Major League Baseball stepping in here. Administrative leave. What that means for Wander Franco going forward. Harp on Sports, the Bar, podcast, media, audio, radio network. Follow, share, like, subscribe. At Harp on Sports, Instagram, at Harp on Sports, Twitter. Auditory Route, Buzzsprout, Spotify, Apple Podcast. Harp on Sports, the Bar. Harp on Sports, the YouTube page. Harp on Sports, or the YouTube channel. Harp on Sports, the Facebook page. And, of course, harponsports.com. Kyle Trask finally got a crack at this, and he played well. He did. He played well. Now, was he great? No. Was he good? Yes. And the thing that would have been concerning if he were bad. But, you know, being great wasn't going to really get him over Baker Mayfield. But what Kyle Trask did this past weekend is prove that he is an NFL quarterback. May not be a starting NFL quarterback, but he's an NFL quarterback. At least for now. 20 of 28, 218 and a touchdown. Now look, Baker Mayfield didn't play. Todd Bowles pretty much resigning to the fact that it's going to be Baker Mayfield's team to start here. That's not the worst thing for Kyle Trask. 17 games is a long road. And Baker has never really been healthy, or hasn't been healthy the last 2 or 3 years. Kyle Trask is going to get a shot at some point. What's he doing when he gets in there? And you have to look at it from the Buccaneers' perspective too. Out of the gate, Baker Mayfield gives them the best chance to win. If this team's like 3-6, Kyle Trask is going to end up being the starting quarterback because they're going to see, okay, does this guy have anything? Can he provide a spark here? Or are we in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes? That's where this is headed. And I know there's a pushback that, you know, the Colts have named their starting quarterback, Anthony Richardson. The Panthers have done what they've done. The Texans have done, we know these, a lot of these guys that were top 5, top 10 draft picks are going to be the starting quarterbacks. So you have this debate, even though neither of these guys are in these situations. Okay, well, who's the starting quarterback going to be? For whatever reason, Todd Bowles isn't ready to announce it. Maybe he's announced it internally and we just don't know. Maybe he's putting these guys in different situations. Don't know. Do know this, though. Baker Mayfield, more experience. 70 NFL starts? Kyle Trask, no NFL starts? One guy's won road games in the postseason. One guy hasn't. So, one guy was the number 1 overall pick. One guy was a second-round pick. Now, look, you got to learn behind Tom Brady, and there's no doubt that helped. Didn't hurt. But it's one of these things that for a guy that's been a practice squad guy, a third string guy for the better part of the last few years, the fact that he had a solid day, he stacked positive drives. He stacked quality drives. And, whether it's preseason games last year, even the first preseason game this year against the Steelers, and then what we just saw this past weekend against the Jets, watching that, I can say to myself, okay, he looks like an NFL quarterback. Now, how good of an NFL quarterback, that remains to be seen. But if you're good, you're going to create a shot. You're going to get an opportunity. He's going to get a chance this year. So, Trask stack. He stacked quality drives. And sometimes it's just that simple. It's like being a baseball player, utility player in baseball. You're going to eventually get enough at bats over the course of 162 games to prove something. What do you do when you get into the lineup? So, there was some questions after the first game, like, oh my gosh, do they need to bring somebody else in? It didn't look good, but now he looked okay. Now, the last preseason game this weekend, what do you get? I don't know much more that you get out of him, but 20 more snaps for him to figure out what he can do in the first half, get the offense moving again, solid backup, and go from there. He may end up being, Kyle Trask may end up being like a Gardner Minshew. Okay. He's going to get a crack at it eventually. Going to get a crack at it this year. It's a matter of time. Unless Baker Mayfield comes out and goes gangbusters and this team's like 9-2, then he's not going to get a crack at it. This team's above 500. If he's 6-4, 10 games in, Kyle Trask isn't going to get a crack at it. And he shouldn't. But Trask stacks. Stacking quality, like quality at bats in baseball. Stack quality drives. Which for a guy in his second preseason game, after being a third stringer behind Gabbert and Brady, not that bad. And if people that wanted him or thought he was going to beat out Baker Mayfield, those are Gator fans that were wishing that it would happen. But Baker Mayfield's a better quarterback than Kyle Trask. It doesn't mean he's going to have more success inside of that offense when it's all said and done, but Baker Mayfield's got more experience. Kyle Trask gave him a run for his money, and here you go. So we'll see. We'll see how this all shakes out. Speaking of shaking out, the Swamp Kings Netflix series, this is going to be fascinating. Looking at the Florida Gators under Urban Meyer. We always wondered if there's going to be a 30 for 30 on this. Well, now Netflix is kind of jumping in. And the 30 for 30 series with ESPN was brilliant. Now, they did The Last Dance. You have other things that take place now. I'm not going to say that they're not what they used to be, but they've told a lot of stories, told a lot of them. They're multiple part series now. And, 30 for 30 used to give you maybe a 2-part series, maybe. Now, the one on the Mets was a 4-part series. American Gladiators was multiple parts. What was the one the other day that Michael Vick was multiple parts? So, look, at this point, this Untold series, it's going to be multiple parts. All right. These documentaries like this, the behind the scenes when you're told stories, you always learn something new, right? Donnie Hewitt, 60 Minutes, tell me a story. And that's what this is, something that we don't know. Oh, this is what happened. This is what was going on here. Because these guys are so confined and taught not to share anything, and then they share. The thing that was a little disturbing to me, and I don't know what we're going to find out about Aaron Hernandez. I don't know what you're going to find out about Riley Cooper, or what took place inside of that locker room, with Tim Tebow and everybody. But what we did find out, at least what it's starting to leak, is that Urban Meyer, it was a rough go of it, despite all the success. He talked about in his first year after losing to South Carolina, he went to a restaurant in Gainesville and he got booed. He talked about his struggles, couldn't sleep. Even when they were successful, he couldn't sleep. And he was popping Ambien, mixing Ambien and alcohol. That's dangerous. It can kill you. Sleeping pills and booze? Oh my God. And this is why I have tons of respect for people that walk away, that say, I've accomplished everything I need to do. I'm done. Now, I don't know how much he walked away from Ohio State. He walked away from Florida. Chris Peterson walked away from Washington. He looked around and go, I'm done with this. I've had enough. I'm done. I have nothing left to accomplish. Lloyd Carr did it at Michigan. About 15 years ago now he did it at Michigan. Guys look around and say, you know what? That's it. That's enough for me. I have nothing left to accomplish. You didn't win a championship, though. Because what does this prove you? If he felt, and it happens to famous people just as much if it happens to your run-of-the-mill average American citizen. The pressure of succeeding, it gets to people. To stay on top, to be on top. Look at the Belushis of the world. Look at Heath Ledger. I mean, look at rock stars. It's a lot of pressure. Now, you can sit there and say, oh, you're a millionaire, you're spoiled. Oh, okay. A lot of these people got involved with all these things because they love to do it. Chris Farley, and then it becomes too much for him. Looked like it was becoming too much for Urban Meyer. He's having heart issues, whatever the issues may be that he was struggling with. Look, if you're to the point where you're mixing sleeping pills with alcohol because you're unhappy and you can't sleep, you need to get away from what you're doing. That's why I've always said coaches and players don't owe us anything. They don't. You get your media availability, but it's like, oh, he needs to play 2 more years. No, you don't. Walk away if you don't want to do it anymore. If you had enough, leave. I'm done. Walk away. We've seen a lot of people do it. Andrew Luck. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. Miles Jack just said, you know what? I don't have it in me anymore. I'm done. Decent career. 7 years. Had enough. And this is where like the average person sits here and tells you that, oh, I'd love to coach for $4 or $5 million, but you're not any good. You're putting yourself in a position of somebody that you couldn't possibly fathom what they're going through. It's like when somebody goes, I'd love to be a Major League Baseball player. Of course you would. You'd like the money and the glamour. But those people choke under pressure when they're speaking to 20 people in their office. You're going to play in front of 50,000 people in a baseball game? Come on. You're going to coach in front of 110,000 people in a football game? Stop it. I love it when, look, I can sit here and say, yeah, would I love to have that opportunity? You bet. Would I be able to handle it? Maybe not. Maybe. Probably the pressure. Oh my God, the pressure in that situation. I mean, there are times I played in front of, I'm just trying to think of most of the people I ever was in a game against. I mean, thousands of people watching, but not 100,000 people watching. Not if you screw this up, you're done. Fans are fickle. They can be cruel. Look, Ryan Day last year at Ohio State went what, 11-1? Made the college football playoff. If Marvin Harrison Jr. doesn't get hurt, they probably win the national championship. What are you hearing this year? If he loses to Michigan again, he's fired. If Ryan Day loses to Michigan, he's fired. So Ryan Day could end up being like, what, 36-4? In a 3-year, it would be 36-4 in a 3-year stretch. You're going to fire him. You're going to fire a guy that goes 36-4. If he doesn't beat Michigan, he's fired. Harbaugh lost to Ohio State his first 3 cracks. Didn't get fired. You going to fire him? Think about if you're Ryan Day, you're looking around going, what on earth is this nonsense? You got to beat him. I get that you want to beat him, but this is ridiculous. And from Urban Meyer's perspective, I wrote this down. You need to be in the you business as a coach. I'm in the me business. I don't owe these guys anything. Now, you may owe your players. You may think you owe your players, but you don't owe your school. If you sign a contract, okay, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. They would fire you with a bad season. So if you're having a good season and it's too much, you can leave. So he was 65-15 in his time at Florida and, being booed early on. And I know this one, we're just a tough fan base. Well, okay. It can be ridiculous at times, but okay, you're tough. Having a coach at 65-15 that struggles with the stress that your fan base put on him, that's not a badge of honor. It's not. So this whole thing, you've heard things like this too. It's like, you can't handle it here, you get out. I've asked Alabama fans this. When Nick Saban quits or retires, whoever the next head coach may be, let's just say it's let's say it's Dabo. I've asked this to fans. How many years until he wins his first national championship? Got to win one in the first 2. Why would you ever want that job? Why would you ever want that job? Why? So, you do you. Be in the you business. Let's see here. I wanted to wrap with this. Wander Franco. Boy, this situation is... I have this phrase, tell me how this ends well. Tell me how this ends well. And that's where we are with this. Last week, popped on here and said, look, if you're the Rays, you don't have to suspend him yet. Off to the side. Let's figure out what's going on here. A weekend into the investigation, they had him on the what? They have him on the restricted list. Major League Baseball about to put him on the administrative leave list, which is the Trevor Bauer list. It's the Trevor Bauer platform. Trevor Bauer, 194 games for the Dodgers. He went away for 194 games. It's not exactly the same, but it's like the commissioner's list. Was it the commissioner's exempt list or whatever they called it in the NFL, where they parked Adrian Peterson or they parked Deshaun Watson? Go there. Go there. While we figure this out. The Rays removed him from promotions, like their highlight reels and things around the stadium. Tell me how this ends well. Because as you're investigating this, you kind of have to set him off to the side, regardless of what it means for you this year. Because here's the risk that you run. And this was the Ray Rice risk with the Ravens, because the Ravens were really good that year. The Ray Rice thing went down. Really good, right? They lose to the Patriots. I think they had a double-digit lead on the Patriots that year in the postseason. Was that year the Patriots beat the Seahawks? So that was a good Ravens team. Could you imagine Ray Rice knocks his girlfriend out in an elevator and he wins the MVP? He comes back and plays and wins the MVP? At least the MVP of the Super Bowl? You can't have that. Oh my God. Well, that's kind of where you are with Wander Franco, isn't it? This investigation's going on. You go, well, innocent until proven guilty. Well, fortunately, you don't have that luxury. You don't have that luxury. If you're a Major League Baseball team, you can't sit around and wait for a trial. Hey, we got some smoke here. And what are we hearing? You heard a 14-year-old, a 17-year-old. They're investigating this. Major League Baseball is smart people. They're going to figure this out. And come to find out, if this is true, then look, then he's done. He'll never play again in the bigs. It's sad. I mean, it ends up there with the Trevor Bauer situation. It's sad that this talent, this flame gets snuffed out. But if you're Major League Baseball, you can't let him play the rest of the year now. Now that we've had a week and we've seen some of these things, could you imagine? You go into this investigation like, okay, well, 30-game suspension. Okay, 50-game suspension. Time served. All right. Could you imagine Wander Franco comes back and hits a home run to win the World Series? And more information comes out? That's why it's delicate. See, people have the hindsight of being able to go, I'd let him play. Well, then you get burned and you're the same people and go, see, they shouldn't have let him play. You have no skin in the game. If you're the commissioner of Major League Baseball, you let him play, you get fired. You should get fired. The Players Union handled this right. The Rays handled this right. Restricted list, here you go. In the Players Union, okay, we're good with this. Now, because you got to protect your players. I get that. Administrative leave. You sit over here until we figure all this out, maybe next year. Again, Trevor Bauer was there for 194 games. It's not right, nor is it wrong. It's just what's necessary. You have a choice. Wander's hit the wall. You can't afford. And the thing is, well, what if he didn't do it? Oh, okay, well, if he didn't do it, then they'll do the investigation. He'll play next year. But, I mean, the NFL's big nightmare is if the Cleveland Browns win the Super Bowl and there's Deshaun Watson as the MVP, he going to get to go to Disney? Yep. What if people say all the time, it's a privilege, not a right? Well, publicity is publicity. You fire people for less. You cut people for less. He has a contract. Did he violate the contract? We're about ready to find out. But at this point, Wander Franco, you can't play. Now that even the small details that we're getting, you can't play the rest of the year. No way. Harp on Sports, the Bar, podcast, media, audio, radio network. Follow, share, like, subscribe at Harp on Sports Twitter, at Harp on Sports Instagram. Of course, auditory route, Buzzsprout, Spotify, Apple Podcast. Harp on Sports YouTube channel, Harp on the Bar, Harp on Sports the Facebook page, and of course, harponsports.com. Going to get into our college football predictions Thursday show because it's week 0. Got to get to some of these. Then we'll dive in a little bit more. NFL will be probably 2 weeks away, at least before the regular season. So there we go. Remember, stay clean, stay focused, stay strong. Frankenstein. Have fun with your friends.